We'll see if that comes around. Hey, I'm Obi That Said, and we are Drinking from the Garden Hose, your favorite podcast about nothing. Get us wherever you can get your podcast, whether it's Google, Apple, Spotify. We're there. You can listen to us, like us, follow us, download us, and don't forget to check out our website, gardenhose.vercel.app. We're there. Get great comments and feedback from all of our devoted fans there. We want you to join that group, join that conversation. Ed, how are you?
Obi, I'm doing well. I got two things to start us with. One, you threw me off base with talking about our great comments on the website, and apparently we have the former president of NBC, Russell Dalrymple, commenting because you're not allowed to question his judgment, apparently. So that was one interesting thing. But what I really wanted to start with today, Obi, is we hit an amazing milestone in the past 2 weeks. Do you know what that amazing milestone was in the past 2 weeks?
Is it 4 years? 3 years?
3 years. So this podcast, Drinking from the Garden Hose, is 3 years old. Now, some of you might think, holy shit, I can't believe that you guys lasted that long. Other people may think it's no big deal. And other people may be going, holy shit, you guys are still doing that? Because I stopped listening 2 years ago. But what's really interesting is I looked it up, and I know we're not supposed to prepare based on one person's feedback, but I did some preparation. The average podcast, how long do you think the average podcast lasts?
18 months, I think, is stretching it.
Yeah, 18 months would definitely be stretching it. So how long do you think? Another guess, because 18 is way too long.
Then let's go with 3 months. 3 months.
All right. We'll let the listeners think about it for a second. Do they agree with Obi? I hope not, because the average podcast lasts about 174 days, which is 6 months. We're on 3 years, so either we're doing something right or we're just stubborn.
Hey, wait, when we got to 3 years, I did notice it, and something occurred to me. We have been doing this podcast longer than the initial breadth of our original friendship or time in college together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. By like a year at least, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think we overlapped for 2 years in college, maybe 3. But yeah, we have exceeded that time frame.
I mean, shit, we've exceeded some marriages.
We've exceeded too many marriages, if we're being honest.
I mean, even if you were to add up just the time, you figure a half-hour episode, we've done well over 100 episodes. So that's what, over 3,000 minutes. I mean, we definitely are longer than some relationships, without a doubt.
Without a doubt. You know, that brings me to a subject that I wanted to touch on. Was not something I planned on discussing now, but you mentioned marriages. And I don't know if I did bring this up earlier, but the number of people in our age group who I've seen who are reaching that 20-year plateau, or I don't want to say plateau, milestone of marriage is blowing my mind, including myself having made it a few years ago. I mean, I just thought that nobody was going to be married for 20 years ever based on what they told us growing up. Have you, obviously, you're probably seeing a few people hit 20 years. What are your thoughts on seeing that pop up on your feeds and messages and whatnots?
Well, I have a unique perspective on it because all I know is people being married. Like my parents have been married over 40 years. I've been married 24 years now. So yeah, I mean, I don't know my brother's been married over 20 years. Only one, like my father has 5 siblings, only one got divorced out of 5 siblings. And then my mother has 3 siblings and only one got divorced out of the 3, right? Or out of the 4 kids, right? So like, I don't see a lot of divorce in my life, right? But going back to what they were telling us growing up, right? They told us growing up, 1 and 2 marriages end in divorce, right? So you figure half of marriages are going to make it 20 years.
Yeah, I get about how you're right on that. It just, I am impressed with the number of people I know who are at 20 years. Now, I also grew up with all married people staying married. My father and mother going on 50 plus years. And my brother and his wife have to be over 20 years because they were married before I was married. Um, and then my father has two siblings, both made it till death. Did they part? My mother has a sibling. As far as I know, he and his wife are still together on their first marriages. And all of my first cousins, other than one, um, are on their first marriage. One did go to a second marriage, but yeah. And then that second marriage lasted well over 20 years. It was a young fling, I guess. I never even met the initial husband or even knew the initial husband.
So, what do you think about this theory, Obi, on this? Because they always say you are who you keep who you keep company with, right? They say if you hang out with five doctors, you're going to become a doctor, right? If you hang out with five criminals, you're going to become a criminal, right? I'm sure you've heard that similar saying, right?
Right.
So, do you think that maybe if you hang out with people who are monogamous, you're going to just hang out with people who stay married? I mean, obviously that might be the most obvious statement ever made on this podcast, but like it's weird. Like I think I only have one friend, like in all of my friends, all of them, that's divorced.
I have a few who are divorced, possibly on their second marriage, and the second marriage is working out. Met more of my friends, obviously, I feel are married and staying married, but I do have enough people in my life who didn't make it. Um, and most of those folks who didn't make it 10 years ago. You know, like it happened in the first 10 years. I know a lot of people who I went to their weddings, and those weddings are no longer worth the price of admission.
I think you're right. I think if you're gonna make it past a couple of years, you're gonna make it. I mean, shit. You get to a certain point, like you just gotta assess your options, man. You're kind of stuck.
I am not stuck with my wife.
I
choose
didn't
her
say you.
every
I
day.
didn't say you, and I'm not talking about me. I'm just saying, just look around, man. You get old. Options dwindle.
That is true. That is true. I think that's why some of those folks who got divorced never got married again, because it was their fault they got divorced, and nobody wanted to go to round two with them. I mean, there's you got divorced for a reason. I ain't taking your baggage with me. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody's like, holy shit, I've been waiting for you to get a divorce. You're such like a hot commodity, right? Unless you're a celebrity. That's the only way that would happen, right? But
Right.
yeah, so I think it might be the company you keep. I think it might be, it might be geographical, it might be regional, right? Maybe there's more money in the Northeast, so it's easier to be married because finances are easier. Although it's really expensive to live here too. I haven't figured that one out. I don't know. Um, but there is, there's always that scandal with that one person in the family does get divorced and no one else is getting divorced. It's like a big secret, and then someone hears about it, and then you got to whisper about it, and then you're like, oh, I wonder what the girlfriend's name is. Things like that. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, because you have a very large family, extended family, your immediate family. So if you've mentioned you have cousins who are like from 10 years older than you to graduating high school right now. So there has to be some shenanigans somewhere in that large assessment of people.
Yeah, but not much. Not much.
Not much.
Maybe it's another podcast episode once the secrets are no longer secrets. But yeah, just boring. It's boring.
Okay, good, good. Speaking of boring, you shared a video. I watched that, Ed. I watched that 10 times, 20 times a day. Ed, how are your ribs feeling? For those who don't know, Ed can't run. I mean, let me put this. If you've seen the video
wait, I ran too fast. I ran too fast, Colby. Stop saying I can't run. I ran too fast.
If you've seen the video of the really tall woman and the really short woman running the relay, and the really short woman falls right before the finish line, that's what Ed did. I've been watching those two videos back to back. Ed was running for home. She was running for a medal. And Ed, you say your ribs got hurt a little bit.
Well, first of all, if we're going to compare myself to another famous video, let's just say that I was safe and she did not qualify for the Olympics.
Okay, fair enough.
I got something on that young lady. she was also running much faster than I probably was, but I was exceeding the max speed for this body that you see here. And that's what happened. And yeah, so I landed on my ribs and they hurt. They hurt. They still hurt, Obi. So here's the thing about breaking ribs, and I'll get to that in a second. They hurt. There's nothing they can do for it, and it's uncomfortable. It's just a nagging injury that you forget you have until you're reminded pretty acutely when you sneeze, laugh, cough, lift something up, or even just breathe or try to sleep. So, but here's the kicker to the whole thing. I have this injury and I don't go to the doctor because A, I'm a guy, and B, I looked in the internet and I diagnosed myself with broken ribs and there's nothing you can do for it. So why am I going to waste time out of my life to go to the doctor to find out there's nothing we can do for you? So I tough it out the whole day after I got injured, and it happened to be my wife's birthday. So she comes home from work and she gives me, and I know you know this because you've been married for over 20 years, she gives me that disappointed look when she comes home and finds out I didn't go to the doctor yet. You know that look.
Oh,
like you just really let her down, you know?
Like,
so,
you didn't do the simplest task to take care of yourself and the family.
Right. Like, I don't ask much of you, Ed. I just ask that you take care of yourself so you're still around so you can, take care of me and the family. Yeah. So I'm like, why would I go? They're just going to tell me, broken ribs and there's nothing. Well, what if it's sharp and it's pointing at your heart? I'm like, I think I would have known that already, like we wouldn't have this. Anyway, the look, I'm like, all right, fine, screw it. It's your birthday, I'm going to go. So I go and I go to the place. It's a orthopedic place, right? And it takes walk-ins. I walk in, tell them I hurt my rib. They go, oh, we don't have a rib guy today. Earliest I can get you in is, this is a Friday, but earliest I can get you in is Monday. Well, I ain't going to help me. My wife needs to have a diagnosis tonight, damn it. So I'm like, fine. And oh, by the way, we've talked about this on the show before, but now I'm never going back to that doctor's office again because they didn't have a rib spec, which is the dumbest thing I ever heard. Just, do you have an x-ray machine? Yes. Just, I don't need a rib specialist. Just take an x-ray. Tell me they're broken. Do I need a specialist to tell me, oh, that, you know what? I only look at ankles, Mr. Phillip. I can't tell you that your rib is broken. That's the dumbest thing I've heard. So anyway, so now I'm pissed at them. I'm never going back there. So then I go to the next place. They have a big sign, urgent care x-rays. I'm like, excellent. That's what I need, x-rays. So I go in and I start filling out the form. Now, Obi, here's the thing. I didn't bring my glasses in with me to the urgent care, and the goddamn form is like normal size font. I can't read it. I'm guessing at what it's asking me. For all I know, I said yes to having AIDS. I don't really know. But so I fill it out, and I sit back down, and then the reception guy there goes, oh, you need an x-ray, right? I go, yep. He goes, well, sorry, my x-ray tech's off today. I'm like, you gotta be shitting me. So then I get up and I leave from there. Now I'm pissed. Now I'm like, you know what? I'm like 40 minutes into this endeavor right now. Now I'm pissed.
And let us recap. 2 doctors just to make your wife feel right.
Yes.
Because she doesn't appreciate your self-diagnosis.
Correct.
Okay.
40 minutes of my life has now disappeared, right? So now I'm like, well, I'm going to see this to the end. I'm going to get a freaking x-ray. Because now I want the story to say I have broken ribs, right? Now I got to at least be able to tell people I'm thinking like 3 or 4 ribs, like to make it a good story. I'm like, I want 3 or 4 broken ribs. I've invested 40 minutes.
Scattered ribs.
Well, crushed beyond recognition, right? So I knew there was another urgent care that went in local, like close. I went like the furthest away. So now I'm working back home. So I go to this other place. Third place was a charm. I walk in, no one's there. Like, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great. And they're open. So I walk in, I'm like, do you have an x-ray machine here? And they're like, absolutely, but I have a problem. I said, well, what's the problem? The doctor's not here right now. They're stuck in traffic. Now, I don't even want to get into that because I don't know how at 5:45 on a Friday, and it's open till 8. Why is the doctor stuck in traffic? Did they go out for a lunch break at 5? I don't really know. But they told me they'd be back in 15 minutes. Okay, great. I'll wait 15 minutes because that's what I do. Doctor shows up. They take me in. She doesn't take my word for it that my ribs hurt. She makes me lift my arms up and she squeezes me, not like hugging, but like takes her hands and squeezes my rib cage. Freaking hurt. Of
Yeah.
course, I'm here because my ribs are broken, right? And she goes, "Oh yeah, I guess they are." I'm like, do people just show up to get X-rays for the hell of it on a Friday afternoon or Friday
Hey,
evening?
some people need that radiation, really gets them running.
So then they're fine. You can get an X-ray. I proved to her that I'm injured enough to get an X-ray. So I get the X-ray, and the X-ray tech, at least they had one there, but he was like trying to position me by like slow dancing with me instead of just like grab. Well, I guess it was smart that he wasn't grabbing me because I had broken ribs, but he was like nudging me, and I'm telling you, it took 10 minutes just to take 4 X-rays because apparently I wasn't getting the hint that I had to move like an inch to the right or an inch. Anyway, finally get the X-rays, go back, I wait. Doctor comes in and tells me no fracture, no fracture. Okay. So now I'm pissed because now I've invested an hour and 15 minutes in my life. I have no good story and I'm in pain. So like, what the hell is going on? And she explains to me, you might know this. Smart people probably know this. I did not know this, but your ribs are all held together through cartilage. So not all your ribs, first of all, your ribs don't even connect to your sternum. They connect to your sternum through cartilage. But then your bottom ribs are all connected by cartilage altogether. Like there's a huge mass of cartilage. And apparently I separated the cartilage and it's just as painful as if you broke a bone, but yet you didn't break a bone. So now I just spent 15 minutes explaining to everybody that I didn't break my ribs, but it hurts just as much.
And the moral of the story, though, Ed, is it only took you an hour to give your wife a satisfactory birthday gift. So I think you should look at the pros of this. You did good. You earned your Husband of the Week award, and you're in a little pain. Worse could have happened.
I'm not sure though she would even appreciate it because she was kind of let down when I came home and I'm like, I got a costal cartilage injury. And she's like, what? Like, I kind of think she wanted to tell her friends that her husband broke his rib.
Well, I mean, she does have to live with a pathetic man who fell down and couldn't even break a rib right. I mean, that is her problem. However, it was still good of you to get the diagnosis and make her dead.
Yeah, so I just decided I'm just going to tell people I broke my ribs. I'm not even going to get into the whole cartilage. I started to, and then I see the look on people's faces. I'm like, I just broke a couple of ribs.
Yeah, I think that's fun. I think you can, Ed, you're more you like to say it. Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. So let's not let the truth get in the way of a good story. Broken ribs, it hurts. You went to the doctor. Doctor confirmed it. Broken ribs.
Yeah.
Took 3 doctors, an hour and a half. Broken ribs. I would like to say I think it's impressive that it took 3 doctors and it only took an hour and a half. I mean, I think that is the most impressive thing about the story.
Well, you got to remember the first doctor immediately, we don't have a rib specialist. I was out of there in like 90 seconds, right? The next doctor was literally 150 yards away from the first doctor, right? So I got there quick. And after 5 minutes of struggling to read everything, they were able to let me know no X-ray. So now we're in 7.5 minutes or so.
Oh, okay. All right. And then traffic.
Well, yeah, it took me 10 minutes to get to the first, right? So, now we're 20 minutes or so, and then another 15 minutes to get to the other doctor. Yeah, but yeah, it was more the drive. It was actually more the point because on Friday afternoons in the summer, what you're supposed to be doing after you're done with work, you're supposed to be making yourself a cocktail and sliding into the weekend. But instead, I was going to get in X-rays.
Well, you
Kind of ruined cocktail time.
You slid into home plate. So you got your sliding in, Ed.
Yeah, we refer to that as the Shamu slide.
And yet it was. It was. But you were successful. So Ed, with all of this talk of broken ribs, I am going to change the subject completely. I sent you a TikTok last week. Did you get to watch? I know sometimes TikToks will work for you, sometimes they don't.
I didn't watch it. And I'm going to tell you what, I don't have TikTok. I tell you that all the time. I don't have TikTok. What I normally do though, when you send me a TikTok, is that I then send it to my daughter and tell my daughter to show me the TikTok. But I forgot. You sent it to me like early in the morning, and I was working, and then I never was able to do that.
That's okay. So it's actually okay. I'm still going to cover what the TikTok covered because for me it was interesting, and I'm not sure how it will live up to you. So it was a guy talking about how in cartoons and movies and everything, there's a lot of tree houses, like a little house in a tree, not and how he growing up never saw a real tree house. That was not something he knew to exist at all. And he was not talking about like the treehouse guy on HGTV who builds these actual houses in the tree, but like a kid's treehouse. So I'm asking you, did your experience match his, or did you have a treehouse experience?
Oh, first of all, this is I. It's a shame that I went on so long about the dumb, stupid ass ribs because I got great treehouse stories. So, first of all, how old was this guy who never saw a treehouse?
This is a guy who is he is about 5 years older than us.
And he never saw a treehouse?
He claimed never to see a treehouse growing up.
He's an idiot. Because let me tell you something.
I all right.
I had such a cool house. My treehouse was. I had such a cool treehouse. I had a treehouse.
You had a treehouse.
Hell yeah, I had a treehouse. My treehouse had a front porch on it. I had a treehouse that was so cool. You should ask, how cool was it, Ed? It was so cool.
Was it, Ed?
It was so cool that yesterday I was back at my parents' house for a cookout. My cousin was visiting from Minnesota. And he actually asked me yesterday. He went back to the corner where the treehouse was. He goes, "This is where the treehouse was, wasn't it?" Just yesterday.
Just yesterday.
Now, the reason he knew about the treehouse is the treehouse went from a place where I could hang out when I was like 10, 11, 12, have sleepover. We had a car battery up there. We had lights hooked up to it. We had the front porch, sleep in there. And so we would sleep out there overnight and stuff. But it ended up when I was like 16, 15, 16, 17, it became my beer storage facility.
Of course it did.
And that's where I would store my beer. And that's why my cousin knew about the treehouse, because he lived with me for a little while and he would store his beer up there as well. Great spot. Parents were never climbing up to the treehouse. Yeah, so I had a treehouse, all right.
And I think you hit on the most important thing about a treehouse is that a treehouse grows with you as a kid. Because I did not have a treehouse, but I had friends who had treehouses. And then we're going to talk about one other treehouse after this. And that's exactly what, even some of them had treehouses, some of them just had tree flats, if you will, just like a board or a series of boards. But yeah, when you first had the treehouse, it was a cool little place to hang out as a kid. And then as you got older, it became the place that you kept things away from your parents because your parents were not climbing up no rickety stairs or rickety rope ladder to get up into the treehouse to see what you had up there. We had beer and magazines up there is what we had. We were both up in the treehouses that we frequented.
So how is it that we both have a similar treehouse story, although yours wasn't in your backyard like mine was, yet somebody who's 5 years older goes through life without knowing any tree houses? This guy had no friends. Next, he's going to put a TikTok out and say, "I don't know anybody who had a bike."
I was shocked because this is a guy I follow a lot. And the fact that he had never had a treehouse did surprise me. Now, I have one friend who is a listener. So I know ears already perked up that we're talking about treehouses. He, like you, had a treehouse with electricity in it. His had electricity from the house. Now, I didn't meet him till I was an adult, and his treehouse was adult friendly. Like you could climb up as an adult and feel comfortable in it. It was that well built, and that well sturdy to the tree, and that good of a ladder. But he had a fire pit under the treehouse, not the treehouse itself, but the branch the treehouse is on, that he used to get that fire pit full on bonfire. So like the fact that he didn't burn down his treehouse was exceptional to me. Knowing him and the type of fires he had the type of fires that I promise you, if your brother, happy birthday, saw in somebody's residential house, would probably give him a heart attack, being that he is a
Well,
fire department type guy.
I gotta think if this guy's lighting bonfires under his treehouse, he's got a pretty good fireworks display, like in front of his house on 4th of July.
I don't know if he does firework displays on the 4th of July, but I could imagine him having firework displays on the 4th of July. He also doesn't live in Jersey anymore. He probably lives in a state that firework displays on the 4th of July are legal at this point. This house was in Jersey though.
Yeah, because there's a little bit of a pyro in you because you if you're lighting a big fire pit under your treehouse, part of you says, I wonder if I can catch this bad boy on fire.
Oh,
Part of you is saying that.
I think he said it out loud. I don't even think it was quiet. I think that quiet part was said out loud. Like he was always curious how much fire he could get away with.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a little pyromania in him. So definitely lighting fireworks off on 4th of July.
I would suspect that there's some fireworks going on. I mean, I don't know for sure. I've never done 4th of July with this guy, but I've done many a UFC fight. He go to his house to watch UFC fights, and he'd have the fire going at 8, and by the time the fight started, the fire was still roaring and ready to go.
So Obi, this would be since we've been doing this for 3 years and we started in June. This would be our 4th year of doing podcast shows in July. And I'd be remiss if I didn't keep the streak going. And I do have to bitch about illegal fireworks or legal fireworks in residential neighborhoods.
I knew you were getting there. Knew you were getting there.
Well, I didn't plan on getting there, but I guess I got to go there. I still got a problem with them. I'm just not going to rant because you could rewind and listen to the last 3 years of my July episodes of me bitching about fireworks. But there was a guy, I did read about this, and apparently not supposed to make fun of him because he was a family man. But he was 41 years old, and his wife thought he was just showboating when he had the firework above his head. And then when it went off, there was no more showboating, apparently. But apparently he was wearing an Uncle Sam outfit, had the hat and everything, and was holding the firework above his head, and then it went boom. So every year that happens. I just don't understand it.
I saw the information about that. I just read the headline and I thought of you.
But I was shamed. I was like pre-shamed into making fun of this guy because literally what I saw was a post on Twitter about how everyone's going to quick to give this guy the Darwin Award, but you shouldn't be so fast to laugh at him because he had a family and 2 kids. So understand that people are grieving him right now. And I'm like, oh, take away all my fun.
Listen. You sat here for, I don't know, 8 minutes, 15 minutes, allowing me to laugh and encouraging me to laugh at you falling down and doing the Shamu slide and breaking some ribs. I don't know if you can fully laugh at a man who died, but you're certainly, are earning points towards laughing at a dead man.
I'm not laughing because I think see now you make me feel guilty about laughing at a dead man. I was not laughing at a dead man. I just laugh at the fact that people continually hold fireworks over their head, and then there's surprise that people die from that.
So I have a question. I think every year we do have this conference because we do in my house do some fireworks. Now we don't have loud booming fireworks. We have New Jersey legal fireworks that aren't allowed to shoot up, but they do have some tip sounds.
Yeah.
Are those fireworks on the 4th of July that do not explode but are fancy sparklers? Are those offensive to you? I think I ask you this every year.
No, I can't hear them from my house, so no, I don't have a problem. It's the ones that go boom, and I'm telling you, there are people who spend a lot of money on fireworks that should be best left to the professionals, mortars and all that crazy shit. But and listen, I'll fully admit, like up to probably 7 years ago, I was all for fireworks. Who gives it? Not that I was lighting them off, but who gives a shit, right? But as soon as I got a dog that's afraid and is going to shit himself and piss himself every time a firework goes off, now I got a problem with it. You know what I'm saying?
I do. And one thing is, if you're, one thing you said that I totally agree with. You get the third through the fifth in my book. But
Yes.
after that, you should not
Yes.
be lighting fireworks that go boom. Not leave that to the professionals.
I figured this year because it was a long weekend. I figured you got the third, you had the fourth, you had the fifth was a Friday, which was a light night because I think people were like, "Well, I got to work Friday. I'm going to save up for Saturday." So the sixth was a big night here in town. But even last night and the seventh, there was stuff going off, and I'm thinking there's probably going to be stuff going off tonight too. But I agree with you. It should have been over Sunday. Saturday night should have been. It should be Wednesday to Saturday. Now we're done.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, so yeah, we had off Friday, so we didn't have that problem in my
But
house.
I think most people are like, they didn't have the big parties on Friday. They're like, we're gonna have
Right.
the party on. We'll have the party Thursday. You had off Thursday, so you might have people over Wednesday night. You get crazy. You light the fireworks off the top of your head on Wednesday. A full day drinking Thursday. Friday, a lot of the people who are lighting fireworks off the top of their head, I'm going to go full stereotype here, had to work on Friday probably. So they had to take Friday, they had to work, so they had to take a day off. And then Saturday, they were back to shooting fireworks on Saturday.
And I know you think fireworks can suck. The charm is we suck. I'm Obi. That said, catch us in a couple of weeks here on Drinking from the Garden.